I'd like to posit a very specific, actionable proposal to you this afternoon, and the boring title is On the Creative Reuse of Obsolete Infrastructure, and the TED title is A Walk Across Lake Pontchartrain. Consider the Promenade Plantée in Paris, the old elevated railway converted to a tree-lined pedestrian walkway in the 1990s. That project helped inspire Manhattan's High Line in Lower Manhattan, in which the old West Side Freight Railroad was adapted into an extremely popular aerial greenway. Dallas is converting its Continental Avenue Bridge into a pedestrian walkway, and students in Pittsburgh are advocating the reuse of a century-old Hulton Bridge into a bike route. Many of you probably remember the Pensacola Fishing Bridge and also the Grand Isle Fishing Bridge, recycled highways that turned into real reasons to go visit those places and for locals to interact with their environment. Unfortunately, they were both recent victims of storm and fire. Now, New Orleans has a similar opportunity, but it too will slip away, not to storm and fire, but to a $10 million intentional demolition. And what I'm talking about, of course, is the old I-10 twin spans between New Orleans and Slidell. You'll remember these were damaged during Katrina, and heroic engineering on the part of Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development and their contractors restored them to functionality really within a couple of months. And they've since completed the largest public works project in Louisiana history, $803 million, building higher, wider, stronger structures, and the switchover occurred this past spring when motorists started using the new lanes, and so what to do with the old twin spans came into the public discourse. And here's their plan as it currently stands. Now, there are two of them, they're 5.4 miles long. To demolish them at a cost of $10 million, 80% of the rubble will go to stabilize the shoreline of Lake Borgne and Bayou Sauvage, and then 13% would go to create substrate reefs in Lake Pontchartrain for shellfish. The remainder will remain in place as a public pier at the St. Tammany end of the twin spans. Good uses all, particularly that last one, I think, but might there be a better allocation? Consider, for example, converting one entire span for public recreational use, a 5-mile linear waterfront park for walking, biking, and outdoor activities. Practically unique in the nation, this pedestrian bridge would also provide fine fishing and crabbing access for folks without boats. You know, the fishing is great in the Gulf Coast, but only if you have the access. It's not particularly good right at the marsh edge. And so this would give access for the many people who can't afford boats or don't have boats. It would create an ecotourism destination in both Eastern Orleans and St. Tammany parishes that could be marketed with adjacent attractions such as Bayou Sauvage, Fort Pike, and whatever becomes of the old Six Flags amusement park. It could create commercial opportunities for concessions at either terminus. It would offer outdoor exercise options for an urban population suffering high rates of obesity, and it would create a great destination for school outings, as we heard earlier from, I believe her name was Sue Brown, particularly if environmental education kiosks are installed. It would form a major urban amenity, which, along with Audubon Park, City Park, and the levee-type bike trail out to the west, gives people, particularly youth, additional reasons to stay here. And it would leave the other span to be demolished for reef and shoreline protection, which is a noble cause as well. To its credit, LDOT studied the feasibility of this idea. Planners envisioned building visitor facilities and parking at both trailheads. The eastbound span would be partitioned into a pedestrian walkway with rest areas, a bicycle path, an emergency vehicle lane, and a fishing outlook pier utilizing certain sections of the westbound lane, which would remain in place, accessed by crossovers. Shelters, seating, lighting, railing, phone, security, and lane stripes would be provided. What soured LDOT on the idea was the price tag, $44 million. Now remember, it took $803 million to build a new one, $44 for what you just heard there, over 4 times demolition costs. What the agency did not investigate, however, were the benefits that such an asset would bring to the region, direct economic benefits as well as social benefits. Keep in mind, this agency has the word development in its title. It's not just transportation. Even the best ideas look bad when costs are tabulated, but benefits are not. LDOT also considered only one Rolls-Royce alternative. Usually in an engineering document like this, you consider a wide range with more or less fills and a variety of price range. So if we were looking for a cheaper alternative, one would be to replicate what St. Tammany is doing wisely at their end. to preserve only a limited section, perhaps 1 mile, anchored to Orleans Parish's soil rather than the full 5 miles. That is exactly what St. Tammany is doing at its end, and it cost them all of $17,000 to purchase the 2 stretches of bridges. So if it's 1/5 the length, theoretically it'd be 1/5 of that $44 million price. Already that's cheaper than the demolition costs. With either pier park, New Orleanians would be able to walk, jog, bike, fish, crab, and enjoy spectacular vistas of wetlands, water, and bird life in a manner that is impossible with existing infrastructure. The park could also be fashioned into a city welcome center, this being the first ingress for thousands, tens of thousands of motorists coming westward into New Orleans every day. It might also accommodate special events such as races, family reunions, school trips, festivals, fishing rodeos, or outdoor art displays. And there might even be a place for wind turbines to provide some of the electricity just as they're about to install on the causeway. The BP oil disaster has given us reason to appreciate the coastal environments that we all too often take for granted. Large-scale public access to those natural resources, in other words, an interaction of people with their environment, social and ecological interaction, would help foster that appreciation in the same way. How many of you have been to that little platform overlooking Bayou Bienvenue in the lower 9th Ward? Student-built project, and just low cost, very creative, very innovative, and it opened up that whole hitherto hidden world of Bayou Bienvenue, its beauty and also its problems. It's been an incredible environmental education tool. Most appealing about this idea is the fact that unlike all those great visions contemplated in the countless urban plans of the past 5 years, this one already exists. But not for long. Demolition starts in autumn. Thank you.